Hi, welcome back to Ruffner Racing. This week, I learned how to use a GoPro. My wife finds out how much the build cost.
I don't know who approved this, and I don't know who thought that this was normal.
I spray paint the interior of my car one more time. I make my car much more doper with NRG seats, a wheel, Apex rims, and 6-piston 15-inch rotor brakes. You can see here, this is a little bit of the seat. I hate to get too fancy, but we did it. We pulled the trigger on these NRG seats, and I couldn't be happier. I actually went to the Plasma Lab. It's in LA to pick up the seats myself so I could sit in all the different seats. They were super cool. They had Sims set up. They sell Sims too. It was a very cool experience, a very nice store. They had a SEMA car in the back. I think they LS swapped a 350Z. I thought that was pretty nice. You can see here I added the windshield visors to my car. I know you guys didn't know I was that fancy, but I did it, and I think it's a nice touch. Here's the rims I'm going to put on and the 6-piston brakes. Stay tuned. I'll walk you through step by step how to put the Brembo 6-piston brakes and the extended ARP wheel studs on the car. So this is kind of how it started out. Obviously, I needed new brakes. You know, I can't add this much horsepower and then stay with this setup. That's terrible. I'll go ahead and rip off the tire. I got this DeWalt 1/2-inch impact off Amazon last week, so I had to test it out a little bit. God, I look good on camera. Did you guys ever notice that? Go ahead and rip off the old brakes here. There's 2 bolts that hold the whole caliper on. Those are all you have to take off. You don't have to take off the small caliper bracket or anything like that. Just take the caliper all the way off the car. I used a hammer to get the old wheel studs out. I beat it like it owed me money. A little bit of brake clean there. You got to brake clean everything you do with the brakes. Makes it cleaner. I like how it smells. Keep it on standby. You can see here, this is what the studs look like. They're not in place yet.
It's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
I used a few tricks to get the wheel studs in place. You'll see later in the video. I lightly tapped it with a hammer first, and then I put the old rotor on with one of the biggest sockets I had and a lug nut to try to make it catch, and then screw it into place. And you just stop when there's no gap. You'll hear your gun. It'll start making a different noise. You can see that one has a gap and the other 2 don't. The other 2 have been done. This was my last one on this side. So I put the gun on. I screw it in just like I'm screwing in a lug nut. And then just instead of like stopping when it's torqued, you just keep going until it really stops. You'll hear a noise. It'll sound different. Here I am starting on the other side. Same process. Hitting it with a hammer. Getting all the old wheel studs out. No big deal. You want to be careful only to hit the stud because you don't want to damage anything else. You don't want to damage the hub. I know replacing the hub is a different headache, and then you're probably going to have to replace the studs on the new hub because you're going to run into the same problem. They're going to be the same length as the stock setup. Just try to avoid damaging anything if you can. Those rings over there for the ABS system, it tracks when you have traction, and it helps your ABS work. So you don't want to mess up those rings either. And then here I am screwing in the new brake line. The LMR 6-piston brake kit came with steel brake lines, and that's a nice touch. So I screwed those on, and then here I am putting the extended studs on the other side. The reason for the studs, I added 19-inch rims. You need 19-inch rims with the Brembo kit because of the 15-inch rotors and everything else for clearance. And then when I added the rims and the brakes, it didn't fit without a spacer. And then by the time you put the spacer and the new rims on, you're out of lug nut space without these studs. So I found that out after I already put one side of the brakes on, and I had to rip everything off and put the stock setup on and let it sit until I could get these APR studs off the internet. It took about a week to get to my house, and they cost around $120 to $150 depending on what you get. I went for the APR. I trust that brand. I'm using those for my head studs as well. So I trust their brand, and I ordered the best of the best. You don't want to lose a wheel on the track. That's bad. That's a bad day. So here we are on the other side, making the last one tight there. That's probably one of the more complicated processes of the whole job, actually, believe it or not, is the wheel studs. Just a little bit of a headache, not too bad. The brakes are pretty straightforward. You know, everyone's done brakes. Everyone messes with disc brakes on a regular basis. If you ever change the brakes on your car, it's basically the same process. If you ever changed a caliper on your car, it's the exact same process. We're just putting a bigger caliper on. Six piston brakes are nice. I'm expecting to cut my stopping distance in half, but you need a tire behind the brakes as well. You can't keep skinny tires and put six piston brakes on and then expect it to stop way better. You need the rubber on the road to get traction to stop. You need traction to go, you need traction to stop the same way. Just a little bit of the process. Again, getting these last studs tight here on the other side. You can see I use kind of like a crowbar. There's a notch in the wheel studs, and if they're not wanting to catch and hammer it in a little bit doesn't work, you can actually use something like that or a big screwdriver to get on the flat side, kind of get it started. But once it is started and going and stuck, you want to go ahead and take your tool out. That way you don't end up screwing it in all the way tight and then end up with your tool stuck. That's no good. You can hear this is the other side. All of them are flat. That's exactly what you want. You want zero gap there. That's how you know they're in tight. And then this is the finished product. This is the line, along with all the fittings they give you to hold the ABS sensor in place. And then there it is, beautiful 15-inch rotors. I used the stock rotors here, but I think as I get the car on the track more, I'm going to buy the two-piece rotor. That'll be my next purchase for the car. Once the car is running and I'm used to the six-piston brakes, I'm going to go ahead and spend the extra money to get the two-piece rotor. Here's everything up, finished how it should be, looking good. You got to bleed the brakes. Remember when you bleed the brakes to start from the farthest brake away from the master cylinder. So the master cylinder is always going to be on the driver's side of the car. So in this case, it's a left-hand drive car, so I'm going to start at the rear right and then the rear left. Then I'm going to go to the front right and then the left side. And then remember, six-piston brakes have calipers on both sides of the caliper, essentially, pushing down on both sides. So there's two bleeder screws on each caliper that you have to bleed. And remember that we're following the same order, so you start with the outside most bleeder screw, right? The one that's going to be facing you, and then you go to the inside one because we are still going from furthest away to closest to the master cylinder. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video informative and fun. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. It helps the channel. Continue to watch my videos to see me put a GT500 engine in this 2011 Mustang. That was headed straight for the junkyard. You're not going to want to miss it. Thank you.